What's going on YouTube? So the previous generation of the Highlander was getting very long in the tooth, but despite that being on its 6th model year, it still sold extremely well last year. And now for 2020, Toyota is hoping to build further on that success with this all-new model that promises to improve the Highlander in all areas. Now, of course, we do want to thank our friends at Frankfort Toyota for giving us access to this all-new Highlander. And if you're in the market for any new Toyota, make sure you stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see if Toyota has created the best 3-row crossover in the segment. All right, so getting started here with our brand new exterior design. One of the first things I notice is that it's quite the departure from the recently redesigned RAV4 in terms of the theme. Instead of going more rugged, actually it kind of gets a little bit more conservative this year. For one thing, the grille itself is a lot smaller than the previous kind of cone-shaped grille. And you also have a lot less chrome than on that previous generation model. Now there are 2 versions of this grille. This is the premium version, which has metallic finish in the inside and chrome across the top. And then the XLE and below, they come with a matte finish and just a silver accent across the top. But one of our biggest upgrades for this all-new Highlander is the fact that every single trim level now comes standard with full LED headlights. Those previously were not available at all on the Highlander. There are 2 different versions of this as well. Your L through your XLE come with reflector LED headlights, where the upper 2 trims come with projector LED headlights. You will also notice we have LED fog lights. These come on all but the very base L model. And then finally, the last thing I want to point out is this silver accent, which is platinum exclusive. Now, in regards to the wheels, one of the things I like about this new generation of the Highlander is that Toyota gives almost every single trim level its own unique wheel design. So what you'll be looking at is 18-inch alloys on your L and your LE, and then when you go for the XLE, it upgrades to 18-inch contrast alloys. Then when you go for the Limited, that's where you'll get 20-inch alloys, and then this Platinum also has 20-inch alloys, but with an exclusive and very, very nice looking finish. And then in regards to your mirrors, you do have standard body color as well as heating. And then you also find blind spot monitoring integrated inside the mirror itself on all but the very base L model. As far as additional features, you have a projection puddle lamp, which has the Highlander logo. That's on the Limited and the Platinum trim level, but you will not find power folding or auto dimming on any of the models.
Now, walking around to the rear design of this all-new Highlander, you will notice that it's a conservative look, but I still do think it's pretty attractive, especially for this class. And as far as the feature set is concerned, we do have LED taillights that is standard equipment across the board. And down here in the bumper is where you're going to see some of the trim level differences. On the L through the XLE, this is going to be a black plastic. The Limited gets body color, and as you can see on this Platinum, we do have a silver finish, but do keep in mind that no exposed exhaust on any of the models. Now here on the safety front, the all-new Highlander definitely continues to excel in this area, since Toyota Safety Sense 2.0 is standard on all of the models. That means they'll have automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, full speed adaptive cruise control with auto high beam headlights, lane trace assist, low light pedestrian detection, and roadside detection. Well guys, that sums up the exterior of this all new Highlander, so now let's go ahead and hop inside and see the extensive changes Toyota has made in there.
So on the all-new Highlander, Toyota has nicely included their smart entry system, now standard on all the models, even the base L trim. And as you can see, the fob has been updated to the newest Toyota design with Highlander branding. Now as far as remote start, that is available via the Entune remote app, free for 1 year. Now getting inside the vehicle itself, just reach behind the handle and there is a sensor to unlock it. Alright, so checking out the cabin of this all-new 2020 Highlander. As you can tell right off the bat, it really looks a lot different than the outgoing generation. This, of course, is the Platinum trim, but there are a wide variety of color and material options. So starting with your materials, L and LE, they're going to have cloth seating. When you go for the XLE, that gives you faux leather. And then when you go for the Limited or the Platinum, that's where you'll get the real leather seating. And then as far as your colors, L and LE are locked into black or gray only. If you go for the XLE or the Limited trim, you'll get the additional option of beige. And then when you go for the Platinum trim, that's where you get the additional option of this glazed caramel color. This, like I said, is exclusive to just the Platinum. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is beautifully appointed. You've got lots of this glazed caramel leather that runs all through here as well as up here. Limited and the Platinum both have the faux wood accents, and then the other portions are soft touch. As far as your two-person memory seating, that's also Limited and Platinum exclusive. And then all four of your windows are one-touch automatic. As far as your seats, one of the nice things that Toyota has done for this generation is including an 8-way power adjusting seat even on the base model. And then when you go for the XLE or above, that's where you'll get this 10-way power adjusting seat. Then, like I was already mentioning, this of course is the real leather. And one thing you'll notice about the Platinum is that you have this exclusive quilted design. Definitely a big fan of this. This seat looks better than in a lot of Lexus models, so definitely a very, very nice and comfortable seat. Now, one of the first things you'll notice when you get inside is just how visually luxurious this cabin looks. And I am happy to report that it is backed up by luxurious materials for the most part. Now, there is one hard touch section of the dashboard located right above the gauges. However, all the rest of it, even on the lower end trim levels, is soft touch. You also have a color contrast stitching. And then as far as your middle portion, we have this cool aluminum look trim that runs through here, dropping down to the middle. All the models, once again, even the base L, come with a leatherette through here. And then finally dropping down here to your center console, you do have some leatherette for your knee to bump against. And then both the Limited and Platinum do have the faux wood that covers this area as well. Now, as you can probably tell at this point, fit and finish is typical Toyota great. Now to start up all the models, just press the button to go. Now looking over here at your gauge cluster, it is nicely upgraded for this new generation. You'll still notice some analog gauges, but in the middle, on the vast majority of the trim levels, you will have a 7-inch display, except for on the L and LE, which have a 4.2-inch display. And as you can see, this does include a ton of different information, including some specific stuff for the all-wheel drive system, as well as all the advanced safety systems. Now, in addition to that, on the Platinum, you will also have a head-up display, which is still a pretty rare feature for this class of vehicle. Now coming back to the steering wheel itself, of course you do have electric power assisted steering, and it is nicely leather wrapped on all but the very base L model. As far as the adjustments, it is manually adjusting across all of the trim levels. However, if you choose the top two trim levels, that's where you will have the heating. And then the Platinum does also throw in rain sensing wipers. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk about storage, which frankly is an area where this new Highlander is absolutely killing it. So we'll start out over here at our center console. This is pretty similar to last year with this kind of interesting sliding arrangement. But once you slide that back, you will notice that we have a Qi wireless phone charger, which Toyota does nicely include on the XLE and up, so most models will have this. And then as you can see, it is extremely deep, tons of space down there, and there is a 12-volt outlet as well. Beyond that, you've got your two cup holders, and you'll find another large area right up here, so you can slide your phone like that. You also have two charging USB ports, a regular USB, and a 12-volt outlet. And then, just like the last generation, Toyota also includes the storage shelf. So you have all this area here where you can stick stuff, as well as another separate area in front of the passenger. So it's really going to be difficult to run out of nooks and crannies to stick your stuff in this new Highlander. Now Toyota was able to deliver all that storage despite going with a traditional shifter, unlike some of the competition with electronic ones. So obviously for drive you just pull back to D. You can shift manually over here by bumping to the left, however there are no paddles on the wheel. And then when we go into reverse, there are a variety of different backup camera setups for the different trim levels. However, on this Platinum only, we have the 360 degree bird's eye camera. And as you can see, it gives you a really, really large traditional view here with the active trajectory. And then you also have the dedicated 360 degree view, as well as the ability to kind of spin around the vehicle to get that full sense of what's around you. And then when you put the vehicle into park, the electronic parking brake will automatically engage, and you also have the brake hold right next to it. And now that brings us on up here to our climate controls. Now this is the 3-zone automatic setup. It's standard across all the models. And as you can see, the buttons are laid out in a really nice and sleek way. Obviously, you'd have physical buttons for pretty much all the functions. You also have 3-stage seat heating if you choose the XLE and up. But if you want the ventilation, you're going to have to choose at least the limited trim. And similar to that, if you want the premium 11-speaker JBL sound system, that will also require the limited or the platinum trim. Obviously that's what we have, so let's take a sample of it. Sound quality of this system is definitely excellent. Alright, so now we are at this big display here. This is one of the major items that's changed for this 2020 Highlander, so let's go ahead and dig into this. Now this display measures in at 12.3 inches, so it is the largest display ever equipped on a Toyota model, and basically looks straight from the Lexus lineup. This is Platinum exclusive, however you can option it on to the Limited if you prefer. Those other trim levels will come with an 8-inch display, which kind of sets inside of this same kind of dashboard shape. But regardless of which one you choose, you will have the latest Entune software. So as you notice, what's really the big benefit of having the 12.3 inches of space is that you have both your regular view and, like Lexus, you have a secondary display, which gives you quick settings to certain things. When you press the menu here, that's where you'll see all of your other stuff. Obviously, this model does come with navigation, since the dynamic navigation system is standard on both the Limited and the Platinum. However, if you don't choose to get the navigation system on one of the lower end trim levels, you will still have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay standard across the board. Now if you press these little arrows here, that will switch the side of the additional information. And the last thing I want to mention is that you have a 3-month trial of Toyota's Wi-Fi hotspot standard on even the lower end models. Now moving upwards here, you're going to find 2 Platinum exclusive items. One of those is going to be this rear camera mirror. When you flip that switch, as you can see, it just goes to a camera in the back and cuts out all of your obstructions. And then the second item is going to be this power panoramic moonroof. Now XLE and Limited do come standard with a regular size moonroof, but like I said, if you want to get this panoramic one, you will have to go for the highest end Platinum model. Alrighty, so that is going to conclude all the features to look at in this brand new cabin. So now I'm going to hand it off to my brother Mason, who will check out all the new stuff in the back.
Alright, so back here in the new Highlander's rear seat, I have to say, especially in this Platinum trim, it definitely feels like a luxury offering in here. It has a very premium vibe. And as far as the features are concerned, Toyota does not disappoint. You do have your own climate controls. That's going to be standard across all of the models, so you can adjust your temperature, fan speeds, all of that stuff. And one of the nice things that this Platinum throws in is the 3-stage seat heating. That is exclusive to that trim level. And down here on the bottom, we do also have 2 smart charging USB ports, as well as a household style outlet, which comes on the higher end models. Now, in addition to that, we do also have a rear window sunshade. That's on the XLE trim and higher. And I do also want to discuss the seating configurations back here. As you can see, we do have the captain's chairs. The Platinum is locked into the captain chair configuration. Your L and your LE trims come standard with the 8-passenger bench seating back here. And then the XLE and higher will have the captain's chairs as standard equipment, but you can option on the bench seat if you want it on the XLE and Limited, not the Platinum though. Now, as far as the actual legroom is concerned, you have 41 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom, which does place it middle of the pack. That's greater than the Honda Pilot, but it is less than the Telluride. And behind your seating position, you're really not going to have any issues in anything in this class. I have about 7 to 8 inches of rear legroom. My feet can easily slide up under the seat, and of course, Toyota does give you the ability to recline and slide your seats. Now, to get into the third row, Toyota has made it pretty easy, so you just grab this little lever right here, and that will fold the seat and allow you to slide it out of the way. And as far as the actual legroom figures back here in the third row, you're going to find 27 inches of rear legroom and 36 inches of rear headroom, which does place it around 3 inches smaller than most of its main rivals. But let's go ahead and see what it's like back here. So as you can probably see, this is not the most spacious third row offering in the class, but it's not too bad because you do have the availability to slide the seat forward. Do keep in mind that this seat is slid all the way back, and the seat backs can also recline a little bit to make it more comfortable. And Toyota also has given you a few amenities, so you do have cup holders as well as some vents, which is a nice touch for the third row. Now, walking up to the tailgate, Toyota has nicely included a Power 1 on the LE trims and higher, and it is also foot activated on the Limited and Platinum trims. So you just wave your foot under the bumper to open. And once it opens up, you are going to find an area that has had quite a few gains this year in terms of space over the last generation model. So you're going to find 16 cubic feet of space behind the third row seats. That expands to 48 cubic feet behind the second row seats. And if you fold all of them, it goes to 84 cubic feet as your maximum capacity. That is worth noting that exceeds the Honda Pilot. However, that is still a little bit less than the Palisade and Kia Telluride. Now, as far as how it's finished back here, Toyota has done a nice job, as they always do. And as far as how to fold the third row, they have actually improved this a lot over last generation because now we do have a handle that we can just simply lift up and then fold it like that, as opposed to the string that you had to pull back and fold at the same time. It was kind of a complicated setup, so it is nice to see they improved that. The passenger seat is going to be 4-way power adjusting on the XLE trims and higher. And as far as the glove box is concerned, it is pretty small. It is dampened though. And up top, we do have a sun visor with a mirror and light. And it does also detach as well as extend. Well, that sums up a lot of the new features about this 2020 Highlander. So let's go ahead and take it out on the road and see how it performs there.
First taking off here in this all-new Highlander. This area here, it does feel familiar, and that's because it does have the same powertrain as last year. Not a bad thing though, really quick. As far as the specs themselves, like I was saying, it is the same 3.5 liter V6 engine from last year, 295 horsepower, 263 pound-feet of torque. So definitely on the upper end of the segment. And the base 4-cylinder has been dropped. So even the L trim level will now come with this V6 straight out of the gate. So that's definitely a nice benefit.
Yeah, I mean, this engine, I've always complimented it in the past. You know, it's been quite a few different Toyota and Lexus products. Just the level of refinement that this 3.5 liter V6 has. You know, Highlander buyers are really looking for that really high level of refinement, and with this 3.5 liter V6, you are most certainly going to be getting it. It's honestly one of the smoothest engines that you can buy in any vehicle. And also worth noting is that there will be a hybrid model offered. That's not available just yet, so we'll save that for another video, but just keep that in mind. In a few months, the Highlander hybrid will be available.
As I had already mentioned, the powertrain, as in the whole thing, is carryover. So that does include the 8-speed automatic transmission. Once again, this was already a pretty new transmission. It was only been in the Highlander for 2 or 3 years, I think. And it does a great job in this application, just like it does in other Toyota and Lexus products. Very smooth, it just blends into the background for the most part. And it does have a willingness to drop a gear and get you up to speed when necessary.
And getting up to speed here, you know, I want to talk about probably the most important part about the Highlander's driving dynamics, and that's quite frankly just how smooth it rides within this cabin. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in terms of the engine, but as far as the suspension is concerned, really does a fantastic job. It honestly feels kind of like, I would say it's just a tad worse than the Lexus RX, which is a fantastic compliment, because when you go over a bump, you really don't feel much of anything, and it has a lot of refinement to its ride, which is what buyers really are wanting in this segment.
And being on the new TNGA platform from Toyota, the dynamics have certainly improved as well.
And now that we're up to speed here, I do want to kind of bring up this. We have a new little contraption that we invested in. This is a sound level meter, which basically just measures the decibels of sound entering the cabin. So some of you guys had requested that we do a little bit more scientific of how quiet it is in terms of its competitors. So we'll go ahead and turn this on. We're going, 45 miles an hour, and we're registering around 56 decibels without me blabbing in the background.
And we can use the max function to see what type of engine noise penetrates the cabin as we accelerate here a little bit.
Yeah, maxed out at 71 was its max for just the raw engine acceleration. Now, front wheel drive is standard across all of the trim levels, even this Platinum model. However, you do have optional all-wheel drive setups. However, they are different depending on what trim you go for. So if you go for the L through the XLE, that's going to be the traditional all-wheel drive setup. However, if you go for the top 2 trims and opt for all-wheel drive, that's a Limited or Platinum, you're going to get their special torque vectoring all-wheel drive. And then finally, what we need to discuss here is the fuel economy, which is another segment where the Highlander really shines, especially with this all-new model compared to its rivals. So for the front-wheel drive versions, you're going to have 21 city, 29 highway, 24 combined. And then if you opt for all-wheel drive, that's going to go down to 20 city, 27 highway, 23 combined. You know, which honestly, that's one of the best fuel economy ratings in the class. That will best the Pilot, Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade. So that's really quite impressive fuel economy out of this Highlander.
Did almost forget to mention the auto start-stop system because it doesn't necessarily engage every single time. Toyota is one of the automakers that gives you a little bit of control over when it engages. because you press down firmly on the brake pedal, that will make it engage. If you just press normally, it really won't necessarily engage. But we'll go ahead and sample it out here when we come to a stop again. Wow. That's really impressive. That may be one of the smoothest I've ever felt on a mainstream vehicle.
Yeah, that's definitely better than most
that's
auto start stops.
That's impressive. Now, if you still hate it, like I said, there is a button there. But definitely, I'm really impressed by that. And overall, I have to say, really impressed by the way that this Highlander drives. You know, it's not so much different necessarily than the outgoing model, but it didn't need to be. I mean, this is tremendously comfortable, and they just further, the updates that they've added have just further amplified how luxurious, how quiet it is inside of here, and just how supremely comfortable it is.
Alright, now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this all-new model. Now keep in mind that the prices I'm about to read are for the front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive will be an additional charge on top of these prices. So for the very base L trim, you're going to start at $34,600, and it is worth noting that's a huge increase over last year, but the really significant thing with that is, of course, that it does have the V6 as standard equipment, which we already talked about. And then for the LE, you have $36,800, the XLE is $39,600, the Limited $43,650, and then finally you have this model, which is the Platinum, and that's going to start at $46,850. Now we do have all-wheel drive, so that's an additional charge on ours, as well as special color for $425, all-weather floor mats for $318, and then body side moldings for $209. And then finally, when you add in the destination charge of $1,120, this particular tester as equipped is $50,872, which represents pretty much the highest price. I'm pretty sure this, in this color configuration and everything, I think this is as high as it can get. And that is pretty much in line with most of the competition, like the Pilot. The Pilot Black Edition is right around 50 grand, but you are going to be a little bit more expensive than the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade if you're cross-shopping between those. Well guys, that concludes this review of the 2020 Toyota Highlander Platinum. We really appreciate you watching, and if you've made it this far, hopefully that means you enjoyed the video, so be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.